Hello, I am Rob, and I will be talking about fossil fuel gas, I should say, because it is not natural. And the decisions by the Conservative government in Ontario to double down on fossil gas. This is an article in the National Observer called Gas Still Featured in Ford's Energy Efficiency Initiative by Abdul Sarfraz. And it says there was a partnership with Enbridge Gas, and there is funds to switch to heat pumps, which are good, but there's no specification on the kind of heat pumps, and some heat pumps rely on fossil gas to boost their power, so that doesn't reduce the amount of fossil gas. And a lot of the details of the program are not available, but they will be released at the end of the month. And Enbridge is heavily expanding the use of natural gas. Fossil gas, I don't want to say it's natural because it's not. It's still a fossil fuel. Let's see. And then there's questions about affordability, because only 30% of the cost of this program is covered. And let's see, did I highlight anything else? Yeah, low-income Canadians or individuals, residents, they are not reached, but they live in what's known as energy poverty, and people with low income should have more access to reducing their energy cost as well. And then the article suggests that some people should be getting free heat pumps. And then there was the cancelled federal Greener Homes grant, which provided $2.6 billion over several years for the entire country, but it is now there's more money over a longer period for just Ontario. But there is still concerns with the Energy Efficiency Initiative. Oh, I didn't click this. I'll go back so I can change my screen. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is the Energy efficiency programs. It says Ontario announces billions in investment for new energy efficiency programs in the National Observer by Adele Chorfraz. And this is 10.9 billion investments, so quite substantially more to retrofit homes, and rebates of up to 30% for energy efficiency upgrades, including windows, doors, insulation, heat pumps, and small thermostats, rooftop solar panels, and battery storage. And this is over 12 years, so it's not all at once. And then previous programs were cancelled by the same government. And this is regardless of what type of heating people have. So there's no incentive to get off oil with this program, or reduce fossil fuels necessarily. It's just about reducing energy. Which is a lost opportunity, in my opinion. And then there's like money for insulation upgrades, heat pumps. I do like the solar battery systems. And it's to reduce peak demand by 3,000 megawatts. Okay, so I'll go to the next. So this is Enbridge. This is an article in the Norwell newspaper. Enbridge Gas is fighting for its survival, and that means keeping Ontario on fossil fuels, by Fatima Saeed. The onset of the climate emergency, the article says, and the need to move away from fossil fuels has posed an existential threat to Enbridge. And then there's a quote: Enbridge is fighting for its survival, Jay Seppold, an energy lawyer, said in an interview. They'll end this sort of death spiral. And then, since the beginning of the year, Enbridge Gas, the company natural gas subsidiary, has been publicly asking local councils across Ontario to support natural gas expansion plans for the rest of this decade. That's the same decade within which many of these municipalities have committed to achieving significant climate action. And there's a lot of evidence supporting that if governments continue to invest in fossil gas, they will not meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius climate goal of the Paris Agreement. And that is necessary in order to avoid the worst effects of climate change. Let's see. And then Enbridge Gas tried to discredit criticisms made by officials at the City of Ottawa. They have an energy transition plan. And then I don't think I was able to highlight other stuff in the article. And then there was it said Enbridge Gas. There was a heading: Enbridge Gas to regulator ruling with. Enbridge Gas responds to regulator ruling with missives to municipalities. What was the heading above? And the heading above was Ontario municipalities caught between energy regulator, energy company, and energy minister. That's the first heading, and then it says all energy companies are obligated to work with both municipalities and the Ontario Energy Board to deliver electricity and heat to residents. And then it's I didn't know this. Enbridge has to secure agreements with the city or town before building new natural gas infrastructure. So they send specialized team to municipalities to engage in discussions about and negotiate and advocate for fossil gas. And they want to expand fossil gas. And then former municipal energy official was saying that the Enbridge employees are incentivized to get results. So this is also like a private company dictating government policy. So this is like Enbridge began delivering information sessions on how to create plans that would achieve climate targets. Enbridge, a company known for expanding fossil fuel, is helping municipalities develop climate targets. That's like the hen and the wolf guarding the hen house story. Like Enbridge does not have an incentive to reduce fossil fuels because they're a fossil fuel company. And then it says, once you get a community tied into an agreement, they could never leave. Even though fossil gas is a methane heavy fuel. And then In the 2022, the company posted a job for senior advisor, municipal energy solutions, who need to advocate for the continued use of natural gas and its role as a low carbon option in the development of municipal energy plan. Oh, and then it's even though it contributes significantly to the greenhouse gases, climate change. And then this muted any municipal fights over the need for fossil gas. And then they can only exit an agreement if the Ontario Energy Board allowed it. And that has not been done to date. So it's like a captured industry. Oh, Southwestern Ontario, Leamington was denied when it asked the board not to renew its agreement with Enbridge for another 20 years. So yeah, in fact, they do deny it. They're stuck. And they're being forced by Enbridge to enter a new agreement it objects to, which required Leamington to bear a significant portion of the cost of relocating gas systems, particularly when needed to maintain municipal drains. And Enbridge is the sole gas supplier since 1889. And then Enbridge, they only make money when buildings are connected to its infrastructure. Oh, and this is interesting. It makes money whether or not the gas is used. Wow. Those monthly costs for that connection. So yeah, there are alternatives to natural gas that should be explored. Fossil gas. The alternatives to fossil gas that should be explored. And people should not be forced to hook up to fossil gas. So it says, in a stunning decision released last December, 2 out of the 3 commissioners on the review panel said the company could no longer charge Ontario homeowners for new natural gas connections. And then the board argued climate commitments would render gas pipelines useless. It was unfair to charge customers for infrastructure with an expiry date. And I agree with that. It is unfair. And then Doug Ford overruled the Independent Ontario Energy Board with legislation which would allow Enbridge to charge customers for new hookups for 40 more years. Which is ridiculous. They'll setting up increased fossil fuels unnecessarily for decades, almost half a century. And it's cheaper to not install new fossil fuel infrastructure than to take it out at a later point. The board's decision could have wiped out $300 million of revenue this year and billions of dollars over the next 5 years. Okay, so this is where the heading Enbridge Gas responds to regular ruling with missives to municipalities. So they asked municipalities to support Ford government's legislation. Let's see, I'm almost at the end of this article. Enbridge is using municipalities as pawns, says Kent Elson, an Energy Loyal, which represents advocacy group Environmental Defense. And rural municipalities often have inefficient energy supply and limited energy expertise on staff. And then Enbridge argued that the Energy Board's decision in December 23 would increase the cost of housing and put aspects of the city climate plan at risk, even though the same plan demands the city rapidly move its buildings away from natural gas. Fossil gas. So they're combating with exports. And they sit on the Toronto Climate Advisory Group and provides natural gas to many residents. But they're also focused on moving away from fossil gas. So Enbridge is on climate committees. And this is often the case. Like they don't detail how net zero emissions will be achieved while maintaining fossil gas. And then between 2013 and 2022, Ontario saw the largest increase among provinces of residents paying for natural gas expansion. So Ontario is diving deep. Let's see. I think I have another article from the Norwal. So we'll go to. So this is another article from the Norwal, and it's called Ontario Didn't Inform the Public About Advice Ordering a Shift Away from Natural Gas by Fatima Saeed. And in the Norwal, and then they had advice to plan a partial abandonment of gas infrastructure by 2050. There was a report that was never public. And then the report was valued at $1.5 million. So this is interesting. At one point, Ontario currently doesn't have enough power to supply the projected rise in demand of 75% by 2050. In an effort to address this challenge, in 2022, the Doug Ford government sought independent experts to conduct a cost-effective energy pathways study, a detailed exploration of the plausible or most useful ways Ontario could decarbonize its energy system by 2050. But now they're trying to be an energy superpower in North America. So that's an interesting thing. Let's see. And then from the article, export report states, quote, natural gas is mostly phased out in all pathways, end quote, to net zero, finding the methane-heavy fossil fuel should no longer be used in buildings and mostly be removed from transportation, and strongly promote the adoption of electric heat pumps. And then, if these investments and recommendations are made, particularly no new natural gas procurement, the report expects Ontario will reach 2030 emission reduction target. So we could meet the 2030 emissions reduction target if we don't expand fossil gas. But Ontario's energy grid is dual. In 2021, it was 94% emissions free, but it is now 87% from the article. What else did I? Okay, and then I'll go on to is natural gas. These are more so we looked at the Climate Reality Project. There was an article called "Is Natural Gas a Fossil Fuel?" because some people might think it is or not a fossil fuel. And then from that article, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, coal, crude oil, and natural gas are all considered fossil fuels because they were formed from the buried remains of plants and animals that lived millions of years ago. And it is a non-renewable resource like all fossil fuels. So it is indeed a fossil fuel, and there is leaks in transportation. It says dry gas is mostly methane. Those also volatile organic compounds. And then there's a title in this, is natural gas a clean form of energy? And no. And then those from this report, 50% less CO2 isn't zero CO2, and reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions by the second half of the century is essential to the long-term health of a planet and ourselves. CO2 isn't the only harmful greenhouse gas emissions generated by natural gas development. And it's about 120 times more powerful than CO2 at trapping heat and 86 times stronger over a 20-year period. So let's see, who else is, okay. So I'll go to the This is called Gas is Not Green, while gas does not belong in a Canadian Sustainable Finance Taxonomy, April 2024. And then so this report is talking about how fossil gas should be labeled. It's saying a net zero transition plan that is grounded in science. Oh, it's saying that the group SF, the Sustainable Finance Action Council had a taxonomy roadmap report, and which said that any eligible project must establish a net zero transition plan that is grounded in science, including emissions reductions targets for 2030 aligned with achieving a net zero emissions by 2050. And then that is with the reference 6. And then, quote, natural gas, despite its innocuous nickname, is a fossil fuel and non-renewable resource. 85 to 95% of, quote, natural gas is methane. And then, as mentioned earlier, it has an 83 to 87 times greater than carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. Reference 8. 30% of the current global temperature rise to date and over 14% of Canada's annual greenhouse gas emissions. 9. That's reference 9. And methane leaks often occur. And reference 10. And they're saying that methane gas should not receive the sustainability label. And they're saying that The determination of whether a project or industry is deemed sustainable or not must reflect leading scientific and economic analysis related to limiting global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. And then activities related to the extraction, use, and export of, quote, natural gas are not aligned, including, quote, natural gas in the sustainability label would invalidate the taxonomy's credibility and utility. And then extraction and processing of oil and gas is the largest source of emissions in Canada, reference 13, and is a major reason Canada has failed to meet historical emissions reduction target. 14. What else is this? Oh, and then they talk about like Asia exporting fossil gas to Asia and how it would actually not result in reduced greenhouse gases because oftentimes it displaces renewable energy. And then let's see. Yeah, and then I'll switch to video. Yeah, so that was why we should not support increasing fossil gas, and that the current government is increasing fossil gas against the advice of climate experts, and is forcing municipalities to continue with climate climate change in action. So I hope that you have a good rest of your day, and I will see you next time.